Imagine you are trying to sprint a marathon, right? But you're trying to do it through wet, rapidly drying concrete.
Oh man, that sounds exhausting just thinking about it.
Right. But that is exactly the psychological paradox that millions of people are about to just wake up to on March 30th.
Yeah, it really is.
Because you have this blazing, cardinal fire energy that's basically urging you to break the mold, to just run forward.
Right, the Aries energy.
Exactly. But the ground beneath you is demanding this incredibly slow, agonizingly deliberate curing process.
Because the concrete.
Yeah, so if you move too fast, you get completely stuck. But if you stop entirely, well, you solidify in the exact wrong position.
Which is a terrifying thought.
It really is. So, okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are looking at a highly specific, forward-looking text that outlines the entire astrological architecture for the week of March 30 to April 5, 2026.
And it is a dense week.
Oh, incredibly dense.
Yeah.
And the overarching cosmic weather here is defined by this massive modality class.
The big one.
Yeah, the sun is pushing through Aries, but it is running headlong into the gravity of a Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
And what's fascinating here is, how the text isolates that specific planetary friction to map out these behavioral mandates for you.
Right, for the listener.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're tuning into this deep dive, you already know that Saturn acts as the great restrictor. It's the boundary setter.
A taskmaster, basically.
Right. And Neptune is the solvent that dissolves those boundaries. So just putting those two together is already this huge structural contradiction.
Right. It makes no sense.
But then placing that conjunction under the really harsh, action-oriented light of an Aries sun, it creates a highly volatile environment.
Yeah, volatile is the word.
This isn't just a generic, tough week. The text is pointing to a moment where the archetypal desire for immediate initiation, which is what Aries demand.
Right, they want to go right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That desire is being forcibly audited by Saturn's demand for legacy and longevity, while Neptune, at the exact same time, obscures the actual finish line.
So you don't even know where you're running.
Right.
So the text isn't predicting events so much as it's describing an atmospheric pressure system. It's basically arguing that this week, across the board, operating on autopilot is practically a death sentence for whatever you're trying to build.
You cannot just coast.
No, you can't just rely on that typical Aries season momentum. But I want to test the text's logic here on how this actually manifests, specifically for the signs that are naturally tasked with building and initiating.
The cardinal signs.
Yes, the cardinal signs. If the cosmic weather is defined by this heavy construction project, the text places the heaviest burden on the architects, right? Aries, Cancer, and Capricorn.
The ones laying the foundation.
Exactly. So let's look at the claim it makes about the Aries archetype first. The text actually labels their current mandate the new blueprint,
which completely tracks with the sheer density of planetary weight in their first house right now.
Right.
The text argues that Aries is absorbing the absolute full force of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction directly.
But the advice the text gives, it feels entirely antithetical to the Aries operation manual.
How so?
Well, it claims Aries is suddenly seeking a lifelong mission rather than a quick win. And it specifically points to the full moon axis on April 2nd as this huge catalyst for a major personal realization.
Right, the axis realization.
Yeah. The text literally says, and I quote, "If a project feels stuck, it's because the foundation needs more concrete." I read that and I immediately questioned the psychological toll of that transit.
Sure, because they want to move.
Exactly. Aries is the spark. Demanding that cardinal fire act like telling a sprinter they need to care about the concrete curing, that just seems like a recipe for total burnout, not a solid foundation.
Well, I see the contradiction you were pointing out, I do.
Yeah.
But the text is actually leveraging that exact psychological friction.
Leverage how?
The frustration of feeling stuck isn't an anomaly here. It's the intended diagnostic tool of this specific transit.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Think about it. The Aries archetype usually relies on kinetic energy to solve problems, right? If something is in the way, they just ram it.
The battering ram right through it.
Exactly. But Saturn doesn't yield to kinetic energy. It absorbs it.
That is a great way to put it.
So the text suggests that the April 2nd full moon, which, by the way, lands across the Aries-Libra axis,
right,
it illuminates the complete futility of the battering ram. The realization the text is predicting isn't some joyful epiphany.
It's not a happy moment.
No. It's the sobering recognition that the quick win they've been chasing will simply wash away.
Because the concrete wasn't cured?
Right. The text is daring the Aries archetype to transmute their raw, initiating fire into sustained, focused heat, because that is how you actually forge steel.
So the restriction isn't a punishment, it's a crucible.
Exactly. It's a crucible.
Okay, that makes the April 2nd date look less like a combination and a lot more like an architectural audit. But if Aries is stuck at the foundation level, dealing with the literal concrete, the text positions the Cancer archetype entirely differently.
Yeah, it shifts upward.
Right, the focus shifts to the 10th house, public image and career. The text outlines a professional peak, basically calling Cancer to a leadership role with a massive career milestone hitting around April 4th.
Which is such a fascinating manifestation of cardinal water interacting with this Aries weather.
Why cardinal water specifically?
Well, the 10th house dignity implies high visibility, but the pressure is immense because they are essentially managing the structural fallout of that Saturn-Neptune conjunction, but they are doing it in a very public sphere.
Right, they are on stage. But look at the specific strategy the text provides for Cancer here. It explicitly advises them to use their emotional intelligence as their edge in the boardroom.
Right.
It essentially redefines the concept of what it means to be a hard leader. And frankly, this is where I feel the text risks sounding a little bit idealistic.
You think so?
Well, yeah. Telling someone who is navigating a highly pressured 10th house transit to just trust their intuition. That sounds like a fast track to getting eaten alive in a corporate environment.
Sure, by traditional metrics.
Right, because the typical advice for a 10th house peak under heavy Saturnian skies would be to harden up, create rigid structures and operate with just ruthless efficiency. So why is the text telling cardinal water to lean into its permeability?
Because operating with that rigid, stereotypical boardroom ruthlessness right now completely ignores the Neptune variable in the conjunction.
Ah, the fog.
Right. If Cancer tries to play the role of the unyielding authoritarian, they're going to be managing an illusion. Neptune fogs the literal data.
Okay, that makes sense.
The text isn't suggesting that Cancer should sit in the boardroom and, cry. It is suggesting that their cardinal water, their ability to read the unspoken emotional currents, the anxieties of the board, the unarticulated fears of the staff.
The vibes, basically.
Yes, the vibes. This is the only reliable data set available this week.
Well,
Because when the hard metrics are obscured by Neptune, emotional intelligence literally becomes the ultimate strategic advantage.
so the milestone on April 4th isn't achieved by force.
No. It's achieved by navigating the currents that everyone else is just too rigid to feel.
That completely reframes emotional intelligence from a soft skill to an absolute tactical necessity.
Exactly.
The fog is too thick for standard radar, so you literally have to use sonar.
That is a perfect analogy, sonar.
I can track that logic.
Yeah.
I really can. But if we are talking about structural integrity and leadership, we have to look at how the text handles Capricorn.
Oh, yes. The general of the Zodiac.
Right. And this is the interpretation I actually struggle with the most.
Really? Why?
Well, the theme is building the sanctuary. The focus is the 4th house home, family, property, legacy, all of that. But the core advice for Capricorn this week is, and I quote, "It is okay to be vulnerable. You don't always have to be the strongest person in the room."
And you find that contradictory for the sign ruled by Saturn?
Completely contradictory. We just established that the overarching weather is Saturnian. Quality over speed. Hard reality.
Right.
Capricorn is the physical embodiment of that energy. If Aries is being forced to learn patience and Cancer is conquering the public sphere, why is the general of the Zodiac being told to take off their armor in the living room?
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, if Capricorn drops the stoicism right now, while serious legacy and property discussions are happening, doesn't the entire structure just collapse?
Well, that assumes that stoicism and rigidity are the only ways to bear weight.
Okay, explain that.
The text is actually demonstrating a very advanced understanding of Saturnian physics here.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the archetypes of Capricorn. Their instinct is to build an impenetrable fortress, right? They want to be the unyielding rock.
Always.
But consider advanced architecture in, seismic zones. If you build a skyscraper out of completely rigid, unyielding material, the moment an earthquake hits,
The structure snaps.
it shatters entirely. The buildings that actually survive are the ones engineered with a tuned mass damper.
Okay, a tuned mass damper.
Yeah. They have flexibility built right into their core. They sway.
Oh, so the vulnerability is the sway.
Precisely. The text is warning Capricorn that under the current cosmic weather, their default setting of absolute rigidity is a structural flaw. It's not a strength right now.
Wow, that is a huge perspective shift.
It is. Because if they try to manage deep fourth house family legacies and property disputes without any emotional permeability, they will literally break under the sheer tension of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction.
Because Neptune dissolves the rock.
Exactly. The vulnerability the text permits isn't a weakness. It is the architectural sway required to prevent a total collapse.
So they have to take the armor off in the sanctuary because you cannot forge genuine family legacy in a suit of iron.
You really can't.
So the overarching lesson for these three architects is that the old methods of building are just obsolete this week.
Entirely obsolete.
Aries can't ram their way through the foundation, Cancer can't use brute force in the boardroom, and Capricorn can't use rigidity at home. That requires a massive amount of conscious restraint for you if you're navigating these energies.
It really does.
But obviously, you can build the most structurally sound foundation in the world, and it means absolutely nothing if it exists in a vacuum. You need to connect it to the grid.
Right, which logically shifts the focus from the physical structures to the connective tissue. The signs managing the information architecture this week.
Right.
Because if the cardinal signs are laying the concrete, the air and fire signs are managing the signal-to-noise ratio.
Exactly. So we're moving to the realm of the networkers, Gemini, Aquarius, and Leo. And the text paints a very specific picture of how information is flowing right now.
It does. Let's look at Gemini first.
Yeah, let's start with Gemini. The text places them in the role of the social architect. Their 11th house of networks is highly active, and the text zeroes in on a very specific midweek conversation with a mentor.
A conversation that has the power to alter long-term career trajectories.
Right. And their identified superpower for the week is the ability to translate complex ideas into simple bridging concepts.
Which is the highest possible manifestation of mutable air.
How so?
Well, in a week dominated by the heavy, confusing fog of Saturn and Neptune, the collective is going to be drowning in complex, contradictory data. The whole system is sluggish.
Yeah, everything is bogged down.
So Gemini's ability to act as a step-down transformer, taking a high-voltage, incredibly dense concept and making it accessible to different factions, that becomes the most valuable currency on the board.
I want to focus on that mentor conversation, though,
Okay.
because the text explicitly links this 11th house networking to long-term career shifts. But Gemini energy is, notoriously dispersive.
They are the pollinators.
Exactly. They are the pollinators. They usually prefer horizontal networking. They want to know a little bit about everyone. They don't typically go for vertical, hierarchical mentorship. So for a midweek conversation to fundamentally alter their trajectory, something has to break through that constant hum of surface-level chatter.
And that is exactly where the Aries sun acts as the catalyst.
Oh, the fire.
Yes.
Yeah.
The fire provides a sharp, piercing focus to the mutable air. The text implies that this mentor isn't just offering friendly advice. They are offering a spark that ignites Gemini's scattered data points into a singular, cohesive vision.
But they have to be willing to actually stop and listen.
Right. To your point, Gemini has to be willing to stop pollinating for 5 minutes and actually absorb the vertical transmission.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If Gemini is acting as the translator between large networks, the text positions Aquarius entirely differently.
It shrinks their focus completely.
It really does. The focus for Aquarius shrinks down to the 3rd house. The theme here is local influence. It describes a buzzing local community, short trips, rapid-fire emails.
Everyone is seeking out Aquarius for their unique perspective.
Right. But then the text drops a massive glaring warning. It says, double-check your communications. With Neptune in the mix, wires will cross. Confirm the details.
Yeah, this is a textbook example of how Neptune disrupts fixed air.
Right.
Aquarius thrives on systemic logic. They view their immediate environment as a network of completely rational nodes.
It's all just data to them.
Exactly. So when they're the hub of local information, they assume the data they send out is received exactly as they intended it. But Neptune in this configuration creates a localized distortion field.
Right, but why is the text targeting Aquarius specifically with this Neptune warning? I mean, everyone is experiencing the exact same cosmic weather.
It's because Aquarius's confidence in their own logic makes them the most vulnerable to the fog.
Oh, wow. Because they don't even see the fog.
Right. When a mutable sign encounters confusion, they just adapt. But when fixed air encounters confusion, they often ignore it. They assume their initial calculation was correct.
Ah, I see.
The text is pointing out that the sheer volume of third house traffic right now, the emails, the quick advice, the local meetings, it creates a massive surface area for Neptune to introduce errors.
Just Little bugs in the system.
Yeah, a dropped word in an email, a misunderstood meeting time, or even giving brilliant advice to the exact wrong person. The text is forcing Aquarius to perform mundane administrative audits.
Which they usually despise.
They hate it.
It's the Achilles heel of the visionary, basically. You can conceptualize a flawless utopian society, but if you forget to attach the PDF to the email, the whole system fails.
Exactly, the system fails.
So think about this ecosystem we are building here. You have Gemini acting as the massive network router, connecting different departments and translating the big ideas.
Right.
And you have Aquarius operating as the local community Wi-Fi, managing all the heavy, fast-paced daily traffic and trying not to let the signal drop in the fog.
Keeping the grid online.
Exactly. And then the text introduces Leo into this group. Leo is basically the satellite dish pointing to deep space.
I think that analogy tracks perfectly with the text's delineation of Leo's ninth house transit.
The theme for Leo is expanding the vision. The text says they are hungry for knowledge, philosophy, and foreign concepts, like legal or educational matters that were stalled suddenly move forward.
Yeah, sudden surge of optimism.
But the specific advice is what really caught my eye here.
What was it?
The text tells Leo to explicitly say yes to an invitation this week that scares them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it insists that growth is strictly happening outside the perimeter of their comfort zone. My question is, why introduce fear as a required metric for Leo?
It's a good question.
Usually, Leo expansion is framed around joy or performative expression or natural leadership. Why must they be afraid this week?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it traces directly back to Saturn's dominance right now.
Saturn again.
Always Saturn. Saturn rules the perimeter. It defines the absolute edge of the known world. Leo is experiencing a surge of fixed fire, an optimism that demands they expand their ninth house horizons. But under this specific cosmic weather, you cannot expand your territory without physically crossing a Saturnian boundary.
And crossing a hard boundary instinctually triggers fear.
Exactly.
So the fear isn't a warning sign, it's a proximity sensor.
Exactly that. The text is arguing that if Leo receives an invitation like a new educational pursuit, a travel opportunity, a huge philosophical paradigm shift,
Right.
and it feels completely comfortable, it means they are still inside their existing perimeter.
It isn't true expansion.
No, it is just redecorating their current reality. The fear indicates they have finally hit the edge of their known world. The text is literally commanding them to step over the line.
The contrast there is just phenomenal. Aquarius is ordered to hyper-focus on the micro details of their immediate neighborhood to prevent a disaster, while Leo is ordered to abandon the known neighborhood entirely and launch into the terrifying unknown.
And Gemini is standing right in the middle.
Yes. Gemini is in the middle trying to translate Leo's deep space transmissions into something the local Aquarius network can actually process. It's a completely interdependent system.
It is an operational ecosystem. And what the text is subtly doing here is mapping out the distribution of cognitive labor for the collective this week.
Which brings us to the hard limits of that labor. Because you can have the most brilliant ideas, and you can translate the data perfectly, and you can cross all the boundaries you want, but eventually the thermodynamic laws of personal energy apply.
Yes, they always do.
You have to pay the bills, and you have to sleep. Which pivots the discussion into what I think is the most brutally pragmatic section of the text, the economics of energy and worth.
The physical reality.
Right. The focus shifts to Pisces, Virgo, and Scorpio.
This is where the abstract tension of the week becomes highly material. We move into the houses of substance, routine, and exchange.
Let's look at Pisces first, because the text's interpretation here feels almost aggressive.
In what way?
Well, the theme is financial clarity. The text explicitly targets the second house of values in banking. It states that a financial opportunity is manifesting, but it is dripping in Saturnian requirements, meaning heavy lifting and zero shortcuts.
Classic Saturn.
Right. But then it delivers this absolute directive. Monetize your spiritual gifts, set a price and stick to it. If you don't value your time, no one else will.
Ah, yes.
I have to push back on this. Pisces is mutable water. It is the archetype of the boundless, the ethereal, the selfless mystic.
True.
Telling Pisces to put a rigid price tag on their spiritual gifts feels like demanding they commodify the sacred. Doesn't that directly violate their core nature?
It creates immense friction with their core nature, yes. But it doesn't violate the reality of the transit.
How so?
Look at what is actually happening. Saturn is forcing material boundaries onto everything. Pisces naturally exists in a state of permeability, where their energy just flows freely into the collective.
They absorb everything.
Right. In a normal cosmic climate, that permeability is their gift. But under a Saturn-Neptune conjunction, that permeability is a massive liability.
Because Neptune is already dissolving the few boundaries they have.
Precisely. If Pisces does not artificially construct a boundary this week, they will be drained absolutely dry.
Oh, wow.
The text isn't telling them to become greedy capitalists. It is using the language of commerce, setting a price, monetizing as a proxy for energetic boundary setting.
Because money is a boundary.
In the physical realm, currency is the most universally understood boundary we have.
Right.
By forcing Pisces to assign a numerical value to their spiritual gifts or their empathy, the text is forcing them to anchor their ethereal nature into the dirt.
So the phrase, if you don't value your time, no one else will.
It's a warning. The text is warning Pisces that the collective will happily consume their infinite empathy for free until there's literally nothing left.
So the price tag is literally a shield. It stops the bleeding. That is a fascinating way to operationalize second house themes for a 12th house archetype. But if Pisces is being forced to act like an accountant, look at what the text demands of Virgo.
The 8th house transit.
Right. The theme is deep transformation, activating the 8th house. The text pushes Virgo into the realm of shared finances, deep emotional bonds, and taboo topics.
Very heavy territory for Virgo.
Extremely. And the specific advice is to look at the ROI, the return on investment of their relationships. They are told to audit their joint accounts and their emotional energy output.
Yes.
This is a complete role reversal from how these signs are usually discussed. Pisces is doing the accounting, and Virgo is wading into the messy, taboo emotional depths.
It appears that way on the surface, sure. But the mechanics are perfectly aligned with their planetary dignities.
Wait, really?
Yes. The text isn't asking them to swap natures. It is asking them to apply their inherent superpowers to their polar opposite houses.
Break that down for me. How is Virgo applying practicality to the 8th house?
Well, Virgo is mutable Earth. Their core competency is analysis, sorting the wheat from the chaff, establishing functional systems.
Right, they organize chaos.
Exactly. And the 8th house is the ultimate swamp of human experience. It's intimacy, merged assets, psychological trauma, the things we don't speak about in polite company.
It's just inherently messy.
Inherently chaotic. The text is telling Virgo not to drown in the swamp, but to drain it using their analytical skills.
Hence the phrase, auditing your energy output.
Exactly. When a relationship becomes incredibly complex and emotionally exhausting, the standard response is to get tangled in the narrative. Who said what? Who is at fault?
Right, getting lost in the drama.
The text advises Virgo to completely bypass the emotional narrative and look at the raw data. Relationships are an economy of energy. You invest time, support, literal resources. What is the return?
The actual ROI.
Right. If Virgo is consistently pouring high-grade mutable Earth support into a partnership and the return is nothing but anxiety, depletion, or financial drain, the ROI is negative.
The math is just bad.
The audit removes the emotional guilt from the equation entirely. It allows Virgo to make structural changes to their intimate bonds based on empirical reality rather than messy sentiment.
That is incredibly potent. It strips the romance out of the dysfunction.
It really does.
If the emotional bank account is overdrawn, you just stop writing checks. It doesn't matter how much you love the person. The math is the math.
Math is the math.
So we have Pisces auditing their literal worth and Virgo auditing their emotional investments. This naturally brings us to Scorpio, who is tasked with auditing the actual physical machinery of daily life.
Right, the 6th house.
The theme is the daily grind. The text notes that Scorpio is in an intense but rewarding productivity mode. The focus is entirely on fixing the small things.
The micro details.
Yeah, and it makes a very bold, specific claim. It says if Scorpio makes a small, seemingly insignificant change to their morning routine, it will yield massive energy gains by Friday.
I love that prediction.
But why does the text place so much emphasis on the micro routine for a sign that is notoriously obsessed with macro power dynamics? I mean, Scorpio wants to control the underworld, and the text is telling them to, drink a glass of water when they wake up.
It sounds trivial, but this raises an important question about how we manage heavy astrological weather.
Okay, how so?
When you have a massive, slow-moving transit, like a Saturn-Neptune conjunction pressing down on the collective, the macro environment feels entirely out of your control.
Everyone is just bracing for impact.
Right. And Scorpio, as fixed water, they crave control and depth. If they try to exert control over the massive structural shifts happening this week, they will exhaust themselves fighting a literal tidal wave.
So the sixth house focus is basically a containment strategy.
It is a grounding protocol.
Mm.
The sixth house governs the repetitive actions that sustain the biological machine.
The body.
Yes. The text is forcing Scorpio to realize that immense power doesn't always reside in the dramatic eighth house transformations. Sometimes power is simply the compounding interest of a disciplined habit.
Well, that's good.
By shifting their intense focus to the morning routine, the daily physical habits, Scorpio reclaims agency.
Because they can control the morning routine.
Exactly. And because Scorpio operates with fixed intensity, if they lock onto a new healthy habit on Monday, they don't just maintain it, they obsess over it.
They will do it perfectly.
That is why the text can confidently predict massive energy gains by Friday. The small change acts as a fulcrum, leveraging their intense focus to physically upgrade their stamina.
It is the butterfly effect applied to the alarm clock.
Perfectly said.
You change one variable in the daily algorithm, and by the end of the week, the entire system is running at a much higher frequency.
Yep.
It's a masterclass in energy economics. Pisces plugs the financial leaks, Virgo cuts the emotional dead weight, and Scorpio optimizes the biological engine.
And once you've secured the foundation, connected the network, and balanced the energetic books, what remains?
The void, the internal landscape.
The deepest part.
Which is exactly where the text takes us for the final section. Section 4 explores the inner canvas and the other, covering Taurus, Libra, and Sagittarius. And the atmospheric shift here is profound.
It really changes gears.
It does. Let's start with Taurus. The theme is soul-searching, heavily featuring the 12th house. The text says, "The world is loud, but this week is about quiet power."
The retreat.
Yeah, it pushes Taurus toward a spiritual retreat, predicting vivid dreams and the uncovering of a secret or hidden resource around April 3rd.
Interesting date.
And the final directive is to aggressively declutter, both mentally and physically, to find closure before Taurus season officially begins.
This is a textbook 12th house perfection dynamic.
Break that down.
The 12th house is the liminal space right before the dawn of the first house. It is the womb, but it is also the trash bin of the psyche.
The trash bin, I love that.
It's true. And for Taurus, fixed earth, a sign deeply tethered to the physical sensory world. The 12th house is deeply uncomfortable territory. It lacks tangible grip.
So when the text says the world is loud but they need quiet power, it's basically telling them to unplug from their primary source of comfort.
Exactly. Stop touching things.
Yeah.
Stop acquiring things.
But I really want to drill down on this specific prediction for April 3rd. Uncovering a secret or hidden resource. In a 12th house context, what does that actually mean? Are we talking about finding a buried savings bond, or is it purely psychological?
It is rarely literal in the 12th house, though it can manifest as finding lost items. More accurately, the hidden resource is a piece of psychological architecture that Taurus previously discarded or repressed.
Ah, something from the trash bin.
Exactly. Because the text explicitly pairs this discovery with the mandate to declutter, the mechanics are clear. You cannot find the hidden resource until you empty the room.
Oh, wow.
The secret, revealed on April 3rd, is likely a realization of a subconscious pattern that has been sabotaging their physical security.
Wow, so by sitting in the silence, resisting the urge to consume food or media or material goods to self-soothe?
Taurus starves the distraction. And when the noise stops, the subconscious finally has the floor.
You cannot find the hidden resource until you empty the room. That is a brilliant way to frame the necessity of closure.
Yeah.
They are basically clearing the cache before their solar return.
That's exactly what it is.
Now, if Taurus is completely isolated in the 12th house, Libra is positioned on the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
The 7th house dynamic.
Right. The theme is relationship reality. The sun is in Aries, which is directly across the wheel from Libra, lighting up the descendant. The focus is intensely on the other.
Business partners, spouses, open enemies.
Yeah. The text notes that balance is critical right now. Libra either needs to offer profound support, or they need to establish a very rigid boundary to protect their own peace.
A tough balancing act for Libra.
Always. But this is the line I want us to dissect.
Right.
The text advises, listen more than you speak. There is hidden information in what others aren't saying.
Oh, that's powerful.
It is, but how does a sign that is fundamentally built on communication and active diplomacy extract data from silence?
By understanding that under this specific cosmic weather, silence is not an absence of data. It is a highly concentrated form of it.
Okay, unpack that.
Libra is cardinal air. They initiate through socialization. When they sense friction or imbalance in a partnership, their instinct is to talk it out, to smooth the edges, to mediate.
They want to fill the void to avoid the discomfort of the imbalance.
Precisely. But the text is warning them that the person sitting across from them, the other, is currently navigating the Aries sun and the heavy Saturn-Neptune weather themselves.
Right, they are going through it too.
The partner is likely overwhelmed, defensive, or totally confused. If Libra jumps in to fill the silence, they give the partner an easy out.
Oh, because the partner will just react to Libra's words.
Yes, they will just argue with Libra instead of revealing their own core issue.
Whoa.
The text is commanding Libra to hold the tension of the silence. Watch the physical microexpressions. Notice the topics the partner actively pivots away from. The pivot is the hidden information. If you ask a question about finances and they immediately start talking about the schedule.
The silence around the finances is the glaring, flashing warning light.
Yes.
The pivot is the hidden information. By refusing to rescue the conversation, Libra forces the negative space to define the shape of the problem.
It requires an immense amount of discipline.
For a sign that hates awkwardness, yes. Okay, so we have Taurus in complete internal isolation. We have Libra in this highly disciplined, silent observation of their partner. And then the text unleashes Sagittarius.
The mutable fire catches the trine.
It really does. The theme is creative fire. Sagittarius is apparently reveling in the Aries sun. The focus is the 5th house of romance, joy, and creation.
Favorite house to be in.
Yeah, the text predicts that a creative dam will break. It specifically cites a surge of inspiration on April 1st, and the advice is the loudest, most aggressive directive in the entire document.
What does it say?
Take a risk on a creative project or a new romantic interest. The universe favors the bold right now. I read this and I picture a massive theater production, right? Taurus is quietly backstage alone, sweeping up the dust and finding a forgotten crop in the dark.
Wait.
Libra is out on the stage, completely silent, delicately adjusting the lighting on their co-star, analyzing the shadows, and Sagittarius just kicks open the back doors in full costume, ready to belt out a solo number.
It is a stunning contrast, but it perfectly illustrates how astrological transits are not experienced uniformly.
Not all.
The heavy Saturn-Neptune conjunction that feels like wet concrete to Aries or a confusing fog to Aquarius, it actually acts as a pressurized container for Sagittarius.
Explain that mechanics. How does the exact same transit restrict one fire sign but ignite another?
Because of the angular relationship.
Yeah.
The Aries sun forms a highly supportive trine to Sagittarius. But more importantly, the text notes the dam breaks on April 1st.
Right.
This implies that Sagittarius has been feeling the Saturnian restriction leading up to this. They have been blocked. But mutable fire cannot be contained indefinitely. Pressure simply builds the explosive yield.
So the dam breaking is the release of all that pressure.
The text suggests that the geometric alignment on April 1st finally provides a fissure in the dam. The cosmic weather isn't telling Sagittarius to be careful because for them, the structural work has already been happening subconsciously.
So the universe favors the bold. Is the text acknowledging that Sagittarius currently has the cosmic momentum to bypass the friction that is bogging everyone else down?
Exactly. They have the green light.
So taking the risk isn't reckless. It's actually aerodynamically sound for their specific position right now. They have the tailwind.
We absolutely do.
So when we pull all the way back and look at this massive, complex architecture the text has built for the week, we've explored the literal building of foundations, the translation of complex networks, the harsh economics of personal energy, and the spectrum of silence to explosive expression.
We really ran the gamut.
We did. So what does this all mean? If you had to extract the unifying theory, the singular imperative that this text is demanding from the collective for the week of March 30 to April 5, what is it?
Intentionality. Absolute, uncompromising intentionality.
The intentionality.
The text is fundamentally arguing that the Saturn-Neptune weather actively punishes the autopilot response. Every single piece of advice we analyzed requires the individual to act against their easiest instinct.
Let's review them. Aries wants to rush.
But they must wait for the concrete. Cancer wants to be hard.
But they must be permeable. Gemini wants to scatter.
They must focus on the mentor. Pisces wants to give freely.
They must charge a fee. Libra wants to speak.
They must hold the silence. The overarching lesson here is that nothing of value will be built, maintained, or understood this week by accident. It requires deliberate, conscious friction.
Intentionality as a survival mechanism.
Thinking-
That is the blueprint, and I want to connect this directly back to you listening right now. Regardless of which of these archetypal struggles you find yourself in today, whether you are auditing the negative ROI of an exhausting relationship, or whether you are trying to translate a massive vision to a localized team.
Or whether you are just trying to find the courage to drink a glass of water and fix your morning routine.
Exactly. The mandate is clear. Refuse the shortcut. Double-check the exact details of the communication. Hold the uncomfortable silence when you really want to fill it, because the slow, deliberate build is the only structure that is going to survive the fog.
And this raises a really important question to leave with.
What's that?
Given the text's profound emphasis on Saturn's demand for legacy and structural integrity, if the entire cosmic weather system right now is begging you to prioritize lifelong missions over immediate gratification, what specific quick win are you obsessively chasing today that is actually distracting you from building your true foundation?
Man, that is the audit we all need to do. Are you laying concrete that will last a decade, or are you just chasing the dopamine hit of a completed checklist? It's a heavy week, but it's the kind of week where the real work gets done. Take care of your foundation, watch out for the cross wires, and we will see you next time.